The Prophet Muhammad is revered as the final messenger sent by God Allah to earth to guide and save humanity. He was not only the founder of Islam, but also the initiator of a great civilization built upon the belief in a single supreme deity. In this role, he left an indelible mark on human history and is considered by many scholars to be one of the most influential figures in the world. However, both his image and the religion he founded have not always been accurately understood. In the West, especially following terrorist attacks perpetrated by extremist groups claiming to be Muslim, there has been widespread suspicion and even fear. This in fact stems from a profound misunderstanding between mainstream Islam and extremist factions that exploit religion to justify violence. Today we delve into the life of Muhammad, the founder of Islam, and the final prophet according to nearly 2 billion believers around the globe. Muhammad was born around the year 570 CE in what is known in the Islamic calendar as the Year of the Elephant, a historical event linked to the failed attack on the city of Mecca by the governor of Yemen under the Aksumite Empire. The invading army came with giant war elephants but was halted at the gates of the holy city, thanks in part to the courage and diplomacy of Abdul Muttalib, Muhammad's grandfather, who at the time was the guardian of the sacred Kaaba sanctuary. Muhammad came from the Quraysh tribe, the most powerful merchant clan in Mecca, now part of Saudi Arabia. His family was traditionally wealthy and influential. His grandfather Abdul Muttalib and his father Abdullah were both respected men. However, Muhammad's father died shortly before his birth, leaving the family in financial hardship. Due to these difficult circumstances, his mother Amina sent him to live with his grandfather, who deeply loved and cherished the boy. According to legend, after a prophet predicted the child would one day rule the world, Abdul Muttalib took young Muhammad to the Kaaba to offer thanks to God. After the death of his grandfather when Muhammad was 8 years old, he was taken in by his uncle Abu Talib, a respected leader within the Quraysh tribe. Though not wealthy, Abu Talib was admired for his integrity, fairness, and reputation in the business community. Under his uncle's guidance, Muhammad was introduced to the trade profession, quickly demonstrating intelligence, discipline, and unwavering moral conduct. By age 12, Muhammad was traveling with his uncle along major trade routes across the Arabian Peninsula and into the Syrian region. He learned negotiation, financial management, self-defense, and how to survive the harsh desert conditions. On these journeys, he absorbed not just trading skills, but also knowledge of various cultures and religions, including Judaism, Christianity, and indigenous beliefs. Though trained as a warrior and physically strong and tall, Muhammad led a simple, honest, and humble life. He became well known for never lying, always keeping his word and defending the weak and marginalized. The people of Mecca gave him the nickname Al-Amin, meaning the trustworthy and honest one. Unlike many of his affluent contemporaries, Muhammad shunned extravagant and decadent lifestyles, showing no interest in superficial luxury. Though illiterate, which was common in that era, he possessed remarkable intellect, exceptional memory, and profound insight. These qualities laid the foundation for his future role as a religious leader and spiritual guide. As he began to earn from trade, Muhammad did not hoard wealth for himself, but regularly gave to the poor and the vulnerable. He lived simply, almost ascetically, demonstrating humility and compassion. While he never harshly condemned the wealthy, he once said gently but meaningfully, "The poor will enter paradise before the rich." This clearly reflected his worldview, which prioritized morality, selflessness, and justice over material wealth. Around 595 CE, Muhammad intended to propose to a young woman named Fatima, the daughter of a wealthy merchant named Abu Jahl. However, her father chose to marry her off to a member of another prominent Quraysh family for political and social reasons. Nevertheless, he introduced Muhammad to one of Mecca's wealthiest and most influential businesswomen at the time, Khadija. Khadija was an intelligent, courageous, and experienced woman. Though over 40 years old and twice widowed with children, she remained a major figure in Mecca's commercial circles, particularly within the Asad clan. She was looking for a capable and honorable man to lead her trade caravans across the desert to regions like Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. After working together, Khadija greatly admired Muhammad's talent and moral character, despite him being about 15 years her junior. It was she who proposed marriage. Muhammad agreed. Their union was not merely a personal relationship, but a profound partnership between two extraordinary individuals, laying the groundwork for the rise and spread of Islam. Throughout their 24 years of marriage, Muhammad always respected Khadijah, not only as a wife but also as a mother figure, an advisor and a soulmate. During times of hardship, opposition, or when he was weighed down by doubts, it was Khadijah who comforted him, listened patiently, and gave him the strength to carry on. After Khadijah passed away at the age of 64, Muhammad forever held a deep sense of reverence and gratitude in his heart. Even until the end of his life, he often mentioned her with sincere affection and respect. Muhammad and Khadijah had 7 children together, 3 sons and 4 daughters. However, most of them died in childhood. Only 2 daughters survived into adulthood, among whom the youngest, Fatima, would later become one of the most prominent and influential figures in Islamic history. In the 10th century, Fatima's descendants founded the Fatimid Caliphate, a powerful Islamic dynasty that ruled parts of North Africa, the Middle East, and even parts of Turkey for over 3 centuries, from 935 to 1250 CE. Muhammad's uncle, Abu Talib, the man who raised him from childhood, fell into hardship and decline in his old age. At that time, Muhammad took in Abu Talib's youngest son, Ali, who was only 5 years old, and raised him like his own child. Muhammad loved Ali dearly, both out of familial affection and deep gratitude toward the uncle who had supported him. Later, Muhammad married his daughter Fatima to Ali. They became one of the most iconic couples in Islamic history. Years later, Ali became the 4th caliph of the Islamic world and was revered by the entire community. Additionally, Muhammad adopted a slave boy named Zayd. When Zayd grew up, his biological parents came to buy his freedom, but Zayd refused to return and chose to stay with Muhammad. Touched by his loyalty, Muhammad freed Zayd and adopted him as his son. They lived together as a true father and son, forming a close and loving bond. Later on, Zayd also became one of the key figures in the early Muslim community. Around the age of 35, Muhammad witnessed a significant event. The people of Mecca decided to renovate the Kaaba, the holiest structure in all of Arabia. This was a massive task that required the cooperation of all tribes in the city. However, when it came time to return the black stone, Islam's most sacred relic, to its place, fierce disputes broke out among the tribes about who should have the honor of performing the task. After days of failed negotiations, the elders decided that whoever entered the Kaaba first the next morning would be the one chosen to resolve the conflict. By coincidence, that person turned out to be Muhammad. The man who entered the Kaaba that morning was none other than Muhammad, just returning from leading a successful trading caravan from Syria back to Mecca. As was his custom, after every successful journey, he went to the Kaaba to give thanks to God. When the tribal elders of Quraysh asked him for his judgment on who should have the honor of placing the black stone, the sacred meteorite of Islam, into its position at the center of the shrine, Muhammad proposed a wise and fair solution. He said, lay out a large cloth, place the black stone in the center, then have a representative from each tribe lift one corner of the cloth together to carry the stone back to its place. Then Muhammad himself placed the stone into its original spot. His handling of the situation not only prevented conflict, but also united the tribes, demonstrating his wisdom and leadership. In the year 610, at the age of 40, Muhammad began withdrawing to quiet places to meditate, pray, and search for truth. He lived austerely, practiced self-restraint, and frequently gave alms to the poor. During the month of Ramadan, he would retreat to Mount Hira on the outskirts of Mecca, seeking solitude in a small cave for contemplation. One sacred night, suddenly an angel appeared in the cave and commanded, read. Startled, Muhammad replied, I do not know how to read. The angel embraced him tightly and then softly recited the first revelations from God. Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clot of blood. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man what he did not know. Terrified and overwhelmed, Muhammad fled from the cave, climbed to the top of the mountain, and considered throwing himself off, thinking he had gone mad or been possessed. But along the way, he heard a voice from the heavens calling out, O Muhammad, you are the messenger of God. I am the angel Gabriel. Muhammad immediately stopped. He returned home trembling and frightened and told his wife Khadijah everything. She did not doubt him, nor did she panic. Instead, she embraced him, comforting and reassuring him with all her love and faith. God would never abandon a man as righteous as you. You help the poor, speak the truth, and live an honest life. Khadijah then took Muhammad to see her elderly cousin, Waraka ibn Nawfal, a devout Christian who was well-versed in the scriptures in Greek. After listening to the story, Waraka was not surprised. He immediately recognized the divine mission of Muhammad and said, "The angel who came to you is the same one who came to Moses. You will be the prophet of this people. But know this, no prophet is honored in his own land. They will oppose you, exile you, even harm you." Waraka called Muhammad by the Greek term parakletos, meaning the one who is sent, referring to a prophetic role that continued the sacred tradition from Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Through this, Muhammad realized that the religion he was receiving was not a new faith, but a continuation of the divine revelations from God, what the Jews called the Torah and the Christians called the Gospel, Injil. From that point on, Muhammad affirmed that Islam is not a new religion, but the final completion of the one true faith worshiping one Almighty God, passed down through a lineage of prophets from Adam to Jesus. Islam inherited, reinforced, and perfected this faith with a comprehensive doctrine in which the Quran contains not only divine revelations, but also laws covering criminal justice, civil matters, ethics, politics, and economics, all intended to guide humanity toward a life of justice, honesty, and compassion. Waraka also warned Muhammad of the harsh trials ahead. He said, "If I live to see the day you are exiled, I will stand by your side." Though deeply afraid from that moment on, Muhammad never doubted the prophetic mission he had been given. After the first revelation, Muhammad received extremely cautious advice from Waraka ibn Nawfal, the cousin of his wife Khadijah. Waraka emphasized that the sacred mission entrusted to Muhammad was extremely dangerous and thus required thorough preparation. He advised Muhammad to avoid creating hostility with the Christian Byzantine Empire, which had its eyes on the Arabian Peninsula, so as not to be accused of having political ambitions or colluding with foreign powers. Although he advocated for the worship of one God and opposed polytheism, Waraka cautioned Muhammad against hastily destroying the idols. At the time, the Arabs still worshipped three goddesses believed to be daughters of the deity Allah Ella, in accordance with ancient traditional beliefs mixed with pre-Mosaic Judaism, a long-standing religion in the region. Following Waraka's counsel, Muhammad remained silent for 2 years, refraining from public preaching to carefully and thoroughly prepare for his mission. By 612, he began to proclaim God's revelations and preach moral teachings. At that time, Meccan society had fallen into a state of moral decay. People pursued wealth at any cost, disregarding human values. Powerful trade guilds engaged in ruthless rivalries and mutual hatred, leading to the near disappearance of community spirit and compassion. Amid this backdrop, Muhammad's calls for ethics and justice caught the attention of a small number of individuals, especially those who were desperate in such an unjust society. However, most Arabs, despite believing in a supreme God, could not accept the Christian concept of a triune God, which bore traces of Greek mythology. They felt Muhammad's message was strongly aligned with the spirit of original Judaism, closely resembling the ancestral beliefs of their own people. Because of this, Muhammad affirmed that he was not creating a new religion, but merely calling people to return to the pure original faith, the worship of one God. He revered Ibrahim not only as the patriarch of Judaism and Christianity, but also of the Arab people, referring to him as the first true believer of Islam. However, despite the simplicity of his message and its grounding in tradition, convincing the people of Mecca was not easy. After 2 years of preaching, Muhammad had persuaded only a small number of close family members and relatives, his wife Khadijah, his 4 daughters, his adopted son Zaid, and his cousin Ali. His uncle Abu Talib, though deeply fond of him, did not officially embrace the faith. One important figure, however, a wealthy merchant named Abu Bakr, believed in Muhammad and played a major role in protecting, supporting him, and spreading Islam among the merchant class. By 616, responding to Waraka's warnings, Muhammad began preaching publicly at the Kaaba, calling on people to destroy idols, especially the 3 goddesses that the Arabs believed were daughters of God. He declared that God is invisible, has no offspring, and no one is his son or daughter. He affirmed that Abraham's true faith was to worship one God only with no images or representations. This declaration caused Muhammad to lose the support of most Meccans. The major trading guilds saw him as a direct threat to their economic, political, and religious interests. They publicly labeled him an enemy of society, a blasphemer, and a destroyer of social order. Tensions escalated as armed groups began to target Muhammad's house with assassination attempts. He was forced to go into hiding, fleeing from the home of his uncle Abu Talib, by then already elderly and frail. The first Muslim slaves and converts were captured, tortured, and even burned alive. Realizing the situation was unsalvageable, Muhammad organized a secret nighttime exodus, leading his family and a group of loyal followers to escape Mecca for the kingdom of Aksum, present-day Ethiopia, ruled by a Christian king known for his kindness and tolerance. There they were welcomed, protected, and granted safe asylum. The year 619 marked a time of great loss for Muhammad. His uncle Abu Talib, the man who had protected him from the opposition, died at over 80 years old. Soon after, his wife Khadija, his faithful life partner and steadfast supporter during the early years of his mission, also passed away. These two immense losses occurring so close together made 619 known as the Year of Sorrow, Am al-Huzn, in Muhammad's life. In that same year, Khadija, the gentle wife, faithful companion, and Muhammad's greatest pillar of support, passed away. Her death was not only a personal heartbreak, but also made Muhammad's prophetic mission more difficult than ever. With dwindling support from both family and Meccan society, the road to fulfillment of his calling seemed further away than ever. However, around 620-621, a major turning point occurred. During a preaching journey, Muhammad met two groups from the city of Yathrib, later known as Medina, at Aqaba Hill near Mecca. They were members of the Aws and Khazraj tribes, long embroiled in conflict, who were seeking a respected mediator to reconcile and lead them. At that meeting, the people of Yathrib pledged loyalty to Islam and to Muhammad, vowing to protect him as they would their own kin. This event, known as the Pledge of Aqaba, paved the way for a historic migration. Muhammad and his followers would leave Mecca in search of refuge in Yathrib. Gradually, many Meccan Muslims began secretly migrating to Yathrib. This deeply angered the Meccan leadership, particularly the Quraysh tribe, who saw it as a serious threat to their economy, faith, and traditional social order. In a calculated assassination plan, Quraysh tribal leaders agreed to have one assassin from each clan kill Muhammad together, so that no single group would bear the blame. However, Muhammad managed to escape that night, along with his close companion Abu Bakr, hiding in the cave of Thor for 3 days before setting off for Yathrib. This migration, called the Hijra, took place on July 16, 622, and became the starting point of the Islamic calendar, Hijri. When Muhammad arrived in Medina, he was warmly welcomed by the local people and was respected as both a spiritual and political leader. The city of Yathrib was subsequently renamed Medinat an-Nabi, the city of the Prophet, commonly referred to as Medina. There, Muhammad began building a new society based on principles of justice, unity, and faith in one God. He established the first mosque, Masjid an-Nabawi, which served not only as a religious center, but also as the place where social, political, and legal matters were addressed. He introduced a series of social reforms, organized aid for the poor and the immigrants, Muhajirun, and forged peace treaties with the Jewish tribes living in the area. For the first time, Islam became the foundation of a state with a legal system known as Sharia that governed both spiritual life and civil society. However, peace did not last. Tensions between Medina and Mecca continued to rise. In the year 630, after an allied tribe of Mecca violated the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, signed in 620 by attacking a tribe allied with Medina, Muhammad led an army of 10,000 toward Mecca. The conservative leader of Mecca, Abu Sufyan, traveled to Medina to negotiate upon learning of the impending invasion, but his efforts were unsuccessful. Facing an overwhelming force and internal division, Mecca could no longer mount a resistance. When the Muslim army entered Mecca, Muhammad issued a strict order prohibiting the killing of civilians, punishing only a small number of extremists with blood on their hands. After the victory, he went straight to the Kaaba, destroyed all the idols, erased all traces of polytheistic worship, and declared, "Truth has come and falsehood has vanished. Indeed, falsehood is bound to perish." The conquest of Mecca marked a decisive turning point in the history of Islam. From that moment on, many Arab tribes submitted, and Islam quickly spread across the Arabian Peninsula. In early 632, Muhammad's health began to decline. He was no longer able to lead daily prayers and delegated the task to Abu Bakr. On the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, in the 11th year of the Hijri calendar, equivalent to June 8 and 632, Muhammad passed away at his home at the age of 62. His body was buried at the place of his death, now part of the grounds of Masjid an-Nabawi in Medina, which is venerated as the Prophet's mosque. After his death, some people began to deify him. However, Abu Bakr, his successor, stood before the people and proclaimed, "Whoever worships Muhammad, know that Muhammad has died. But whoever worships Allah, Allah is alive and eternal." From a small group of persecuted followers, Islam under Muhammad's leadership had grown into a powerful religious and political movement. After his passing, his successors, known as Khalifa or Caliphs, continued to expand his territory and spread the faith. Today, Islam is one of the 3 largest religions in the world, with over 1.8 billion adherents accounting for approximately 24% of the global population. However, the development of Islam has witnessed many upheavals, including divisions into various sects such as Sunni Shia and other movements. Some extremist groups acting in the name of Islam have committed violent acts tarnishing the religion's image. Nevertheless, such actions do not reflect the true spirit of Islam, which is centered on faith, compassion, justice, and peace principles that Muhammad consistently taught throughout his life.